Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Brook the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Thursday, January 22nd. I think that's what it is. I don't know. We had a pretty good day on the show yesterday. Either 5-1-2, I think, or 5-2-1, I guess, depending on what number you got on Fordham. So, like, Texas got the cover there. They did not win outright, but they got the cover, so Texas was a win. Fordham, like right after I did the show, I updated the show description because I found a 5 when I was putting it in to the system. So I did get a push with mine on the Fordham one, but that was a brutal, brutal loss. If you took a loss on it, a push was bad enough on that. Fordham was definitely the right side in that game. I don't know if anybody actually paid attention to that game. They were winning the game outright with like 10 minutes left. And the only reason they lost that game at all was a massive free throw disparity in the game. They were not getting any of the calls. The calls completely went against them. And then they wound up losing by exactly 5. Brutal. If you had the 4.5, I would have been, I don't know, perhaps ending it all. If I had a play on the 4.5 in that one. East Carolina was garbage. That was the one huge loser in college basketball. Fresno, they got in the back door, baby. Fresno looked like it wasn't going to happen. They were, they were still in range to maybe cover that thing, and then they actually did. I don't know how they did it because I checked back like a little while later. I was like, oh, my God, they actually covered. I think they lost by 9 or something. So Fresno stayed in there, and then if anybody stayed up for the degenerate special that didn't end until like probably 1:30 a.m. Eastern, Northwestern got the outright win against USC, so that was a nice winner as well. Hockey, Utah saved our ass. That wound up being a push with the recommendation that I have with the split puck line money line. So hopefully people at least did it that way. But Utah was looking like they were dead in that game. The game was pretty close statistically, but Utah was down 4-2 in the third period, and then they made it 4-3, and I'm like, don't tease me. Like, come on. And then they tied it with, I don't even know. They tied it probably with 7 seconds left, sent it into overtime, and won in overtime. I'm like, all right. The Mammoth, I'll take that because the Mammoth were the team that was on the wrong side of one that was like that against Anaheim earlier this year, if you remember that, or late last year, I guess, at this point. If you remember that one, Anaheim scored on them with like 4 seconds left to send it into overtime. That really, really pissed me off. NBA, we went 2-0. We got the Cleveland Cavs. Dude, that game, I don't know how the final score was anywhere near as close as it was. Cleveland was running away with that game. They were up like 28 points in the middle of the game. I'm like, all right, well, this is an easy win for Cleveland. Then fourth quarter, Charlotte somehow cut the game all the way to 4. I don't even know, man. I mean, Cleveland still did not surrender the cover, and they wound up winning by 7. But how can you be up like almost 30 points more than like midway through the game and almost lose the game? It doesn't make any sense. But they did cover still. And then the New Orleans Pelicans, there we go, baby. NOLA. I got my Zion jersey here. I'm not a Zionist, except when I'm a fan of Zion Williamson. I like these alternate New Orleans jerseys, by the way, whatever they were. The City Connect, whatever, from a year or two ago. New Orleans got the cover. They lost by, I don't know, 9 maybe. So if you got the plus 10, you got it. It was up to 11. Like I said, it was up to 11 when I was doing the show. So I should have updated the banner for that. But they covered either way. So we got the cover with the Pelicans on that one. So good. They were losing by more than that, and they got to within the number. So Pelicans treating me well. Tyson, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Jeffrey, what's up? Kyle, what's up? J-Main, what's up? You don't believe what? Who's sharp? What? I'm not sharp. Mr. Pinsy, what's up? Tyson, you like Old Dominion today? I guess I'll talk about that game. City Connect. I don't like the newer ones, actually. I liked the 2023, whatever, 2024. I have this one. I have a Wemba Spurs one that's like that teal color. I got 2 Celtics ones with the neon green. I like neon green, man. I got a Pritchard one, and then I have a better quality Tatum one. Bring back Tatum. Get him back. I have those for the Celtics, and then I don't know if I have any of the other City Connect ones. I don't know. You guys have seen me wearing a couple other jerseys. I don't know. I think the other ones I have might just be normal NBA jerseys. I forget. Some of this. Oh, I have the Charlotte Hornets City Connect one. You guys saw that. Oh, yesterday Old Dominion was correct. I wasn't even paying attention. All right. Well, let's do it. Let's go to college basketball here. I don't want to take up too much time here, man. There's a lot of college basketball. Well, kind of. It's a Thursday, so it's an ugly card, ugly board. Thursday, there's never any big conference games, I don't think. So we do have some noontime action with, if you want me to talk about these games, I guess. But like UL Monroe at Marshall, I mean, this is a real way to kick off the slate here. UL Monroe, easily the worst team in the Sunbelt. They are absolutely atrocious. They just got blown out again at home by Georgia State. I mean, I think at least you probably know you're going to at least get an effort out of them because it's going to be embarrassing if they don't win a game at some point. Marshall is coming off a pretty bad result of themselves. They won barely against James Madison. This is not football, so James Madison, not great at all this year. So I'm assuming Marshall was a big favorite in this game, and they barely got by. Let me see. 6.5, actually. I expected that they were more of a heavy favorite than that. But Marshall staying at home off of that, potentially a look ahead to South Alabama because they are ahead of Marshall in the standings. So that is the one concern there, I guess. Marshall's certainly the better team here. They're, I guess, a little bit down from 17.5 to 17. Monroe, 53% of the tickets, 69% of the cash on them. I mean, again, at least you know you're getting an effort out of them. I mean, the question is Marshall really going to be that incentivized to blow this team out? I don't know. I mean, they might be able to just do it without that big of an effort, to be honest. The money is saying UL Monroe. I might slightly disagree with that, although there is that look ahead from Marshall, but I do not have a strong opinion on that. But I do have a noontime game for you in the other one. I'm gonna give you a play in this other game. Best bets. I have 4 college basketball plays. The first one up, I know this is really, really, really ugly. This is a low total as well, but we're going to lay the points with Appalachian State, minus 8.5. You might be able to get a better number on this. I don't know. Well, it looks like this is not going to be a game with public action really on it, although, actually, wait, this is at 6:30? No, it's at 12. What the fuck? Dude, I don't know what pregame is doing here, but ESPN is saying this game is at 12, so I'm going by that. We're laying the points here. 80% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on App State. So it looks like the money is probably on this side, even though they dropped from 9.5 to 8.5. I think anywhere in that ballpark, it's probably worth a play, although I know the total is extremely low at 122.5. But part of that is that Louisiana cannot score. And Louisiana, I know I gave out a play on them not that long ago, and they covered for us. But now we're going to go against them. Louisiana just pulled off an upset at South Alabama, and that was on the heels of that cover that they gave us in the game before that. But you look at how this game played out. I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, Louisiana actually did have the lead for most of the second half, and they somehow got out of this game with a win. A very ugly, low-scoring game. But they were a big underdog in this game for sure. They were 9.5-point underdogs in this game. And looking at how this game played out, statistically, South Alabama out-rebounded them pretty significantly by double digits. And I don't know how. Well, I do know how. The only reason Louisiana won this game is because like 70% of their attempts were from three-point range. That's the only reason why. They jacked up threes all over the place, and they hit enough of them to win the game, and that was it. Like, they weren't taking any two-pointers in the game. So, three-point shooting, I mean, there's a ton of variance there. Louisiana, they take a ton of threes. They're not exactly good at hitting them. So, I don't really expect that to continue. This is a third straight road game for them. App State, I mean, they don't look like a team you really want to lay huge points with, but I'm going to do it here. App State is also coming off a really ugly game against Old Dominion. App State lost this game as 7.5-point favorites at home, and Old Dominion just really had a great shooting game. 48% from three was the real difference in this game. Old Dominion shooting 48%. That was like the entire difference, because App State actually probably should have won the game. They won the rebound battle. They had more field goal attempts in the game, so it was a little bit of a misleading result there. So I think you're going to see some regression in both directions here. I like this. You get a favorite that's coming. You get the better team coming off a bad performance, which means they're probably going to be focused. You got the uglier team coming off an upset win, which might mean they might be a little bit in a letdown spot here. App State does not have a bigger game up next. They play UL Monroe, which is even worse. And then if we consult Ken Palm on this, he does have App State as a little bit lucky. He has them, just not a great team, whatever. That's kind of expected. 226th overall. Fairly balanced offense, defense. They're a little bit better defensively. They play really, really slow, which I know is not really conducive to laying points, although at least we're not laying double digits here. But Louisiana is terrible. He's got them at 322nd. He has them one of the worst offenses in all of college basketball, like 16th worst. They're okay defensively. They do play slow as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a slowish, somewhat defensive game. But I think Louisiana might really struggle to score in this one. If you wanted to go Louisiana under their team total, I wouldn't hate that either. And Louisiana actually is not that low in the luck index either, but I believe Ken Baum has this number at about 9, so I like it. App State is the first play in that one, and the market seems like it is kind of agreeing with that, so I'm going against sometimes what I usually do, where I don't like to lay big favorites with a small total like that, but I'm doing it there. 1 p.m., we have A-Sun action between Stetson and Lipscomb. Stetson is coming off losing to Queens in a pretty close game. Queens is still at the top of the A-Sun, although they are not as good as Austin Peay or Lipscomb, but they happen to be atop the A-Sun right now due to some luck and because I think they've avoided those other teams so far, I believe. Stetson, the really interesting thing about this game is, they're coming off a pretty big game against Queens. Now they're going to go on the road to Lipscomb, but Stetson actually beat Lipscomb at home earlier this year, and that is Lipscomb's only conference loss, so Lipscomb should be focused. I like using that angle where you have a one-loss conference team and they're playing that team again for the second time. Like, you pretty much know they're going to come in with some effort because they know this is the only team that beat us. So Lipscomb should be focused on this game for that reason, but I worry because they did just beat Austin Peay in a pretty close game, and Austin Peay is really their actual competition, I think, to try to win the A-Sun. So that was a big game as well. So I think I just have to stay away from this one, though. I'd lean towards laying the points with Lipscomb here. They're up to 15.5 with juice, but the game's going to be a stay away from me. And then on the other end of that, we have Florida Gulf Coast at Austin Peay. Florida Gulf Coast just ended a losing streak by beating West Georgia. Not an impressive win, but what that will do is end their losing streak, and now they'll have some momentum coming in to face Austin Peay, which, by the way, they already faced Austin Peay once, and they did lose at home, so there's a little bit of a road revenge angle here, or Florida Gulf Coast might be able to make the adjustments, whereas Austin Peay might not take them seriously because Austin Peay did already beat Florida Gulf Coast once. And Austin Peay is, of course, like I said, coming off that game against Lipscomb. That was their first conference loss. Austin Peay hadn't lost in quite a while. They'd won 7 games in a row. So I think it's kind of a double hangover spot for Austin Peay, where when you lose a game and you haven't lost in a while, that can hang you over. But when it was a big game against Lipscomb and you played it really close, I think that also is a cause for a hangover. So I like Florida Gulf Coast in this game. Austin Peay is up from 4.5 to 5.5 here, but I lean against that early move there. We don't see the percentages yet, but I would take Florida Gulf Coast in that game if I was going to play it, but I am avoiding the game. All right. And then, I don't know, man. I mean, we do have at 6 p.m., I mean, I guess this might actually be the best 2 teams in the American East, Vermont and UMass Lowell. Vermont is the best team in this conference, but it's like, this conference is awful, dude. But Vermont is coming off a really bad loss at Albany. Albany's not very good. Well, I guess Albany's at least been okay in the conference so far. But Vermont had actually started out conference play with really, really weak opponents. And they lost to Albany. It's still not a good loss. Vermont was road favored in that one. So maybe they were looking ahead to UMass Lowell. I don't know. But I think it might be a little bit of a bounce back spot for them. But UMass Lowell also might be in one because they lost to NJIT after starting out with 3 conference wins. NJIT is 4-1 in the conference, but they're fake. I'll tell you that right now. If you look at like Ken Bump's power ratings or whatever, NJIT is not anywhere close to the best team in this conference, so they should fade. But that is an ugly loss for UMass Lowell, losing at home. Maybe they were looking ahead to Vermont here. Vermont basically has been the class of this conference here, man. They seem to win this conference every year, except when Bryant joined the conference and actually did it last year. Vermont is probably going to win it again this year, but they're down from 4.5 to 4 here. I think both teams might be focused here, but I would probably lean to UMass Lowell getting the points at home. UMass Lowell plays a lot better as a dog than a favorite, so that's probably the way that I would lean in that one. All right. And then we do have Albany at Maine. Albany coming off that big win over Vermont. I think they could be in a bit of a letdown spot here, man, going to Maine here. But I know Maine made the conference final last year, so I'm wondering if there is any sort of revenge angle here. There is not. I think Albany lost to Bryant in the tournament, it looks like. It's hard to tell because they're at like the actual sites of the higher seeds in that tournament, so it doesn't, like, you don't get the asterisk there that tells you it was a neutral site game, which is how I kind of that's how I kind of visualize, oh yeah, that was a tournament game, conference tournament. But in some of these small conferences, they play at the location of the higher seed. But anyway, Albany, big win over Vermont, man. Could be a letdown spot for them here. They only have 1 road conference game so far, I think, and it was a double-digit loss to UMass Lowell. I know Maine is not as good as UMass Lowell. Maine is awful again this year, but I would probably have to lean to Maine here. Maine is at home, coming off another ugly loss, losing to New Hampshire at home. New Hampshire is not good either, man. I mean, that's a bad loss. Albany did go up from 3 to 4 here, but I would disagree with that move. I would take the points with Maine in that game. But not a strong opinion from me on that one. Horizon League has Green Bay at Youngstown State. Green Bay just lost after a pretty decent win streak, a 5-game win streak. They just took a loss to Oakland. It was a blowout loss, 25 points at home. So in a way, yeah, maybe they might bounce back from that. But they could also be hung over because you get up for a game against Oakland because they're one of the better teams in this conference. And now that might hang them over, man, if they're losing that win streak. Robert Morris is their next opponent. Robert Morris won the conference last year, although they're not very good this year. So I could see it being maybe a little bit of a hangover for Green Bay. Youngstown is coming off the much uglier loss, I would say, losing at Cleveland State. Cleveland State is pretty ugly, man. And Youngstown lost that game, so they might be more in a bounce-back mode at home. These college basketball teams returning home when they lost their last couple of games at home. I think they want to get that win. You know, they've actually lost every conference home game so far, although that is kind of a trend. Well, yeah, they haven't been as good at home, but all the losses were close, and 2 of them were to Oakland and IPFW, and those are 2 of the better teams in the conference. So I expect a better performance out of Youngstown here. I'd probably lean to Youngstown in that game. They're actually a 6-point favorite, but down from 6.5. And the money looks like it's on Green Bay, but I don't really agree. 50% of the tickets, 83% of the cash coming in on Green Bay. I don't really get it. But if you look at the team's records, too, it's like who's going to lay 6.5 with a 9-11 team that's 2-7 in conference against an 11-9 team that's 6-3 in conference, right? Like the line makes absolutely no sense. And when the line doesn't appear to make any sense, there's got to be a reason for it. The odds makers are not just handing you free money, you know what I mean? So that makes me lean to Youngstown as well in that game. So I don't know what's going on with the market, but I would prefer Youngstown in that game. South Florida at UAB on ESPN2 in the American Conference here. South Florida just took a pretty ugly loss at home to, well, not an ugly loss, but they did lose at home to Wichita. And South Florida was like a 7.5-point favorite in that game. That broke a winning streak for them. But I think they might be in a bounce-back spot here, and they did already lose at home to UAB in a barn burner, like multi-overtime game where both teams scored over 100. So South Florida might be in a little bit of a revenge mood here because South Florida must have been the favorite in that game. They're actually favored on the road here, so they must have been a pretty big favorite in that game. South Florida is actually the better team out of these two, even though their record is actually worse. UAB just took a blowout loss to Towson. They're staying at home off of that, but I think both teams are going to be focused in this game, and I actually prefer the road revenge angle plus the fact that South Florida is actually the better team, and the line looks pretty fishy with South Florida being a 2-point road favorite despite having the worst record. So I like South Florida in this game. They're up from 2 to 2 with juice there. That is the way that I would lean in that game. All right, Fox Sports 1. Actually, there is one big conference game. My apologies. There's a Big Ten game here at 7 p.m. Wisconsin at Penn State. So they get a Thursday game for whatever reason. It's not a bad spot for Wisconsin, really, though. They just beat Rutgers in their last game. They've been fine on the road so far in the conference as well. I mean, they beat Michigan on the road. So Wisconsin is not going to be intimidated going to Penn State. They got USC on deck. Not really cause for a look ahead, in my opinion. Penn State is still going to be really, really hungry for a win, though. They're the only Big Ten team without a conference win so far, and they're coming up another, just a really ugly loss at Maryland, and they lost their last home game as well. Of course, they haven't won yet at all. Penn State has been okay at home. They only lost by 8 to Illinois. They lost by 2 here to Michigan, and one of our winners earlier this year on the show was, or maybe late last year, I forget, was they only lost by 4 to Michigan State on this floor as well. So Penn State has actually been better at home. They are definitely going to be desperate for a win here. So I'm not going to disagree with taking the points with Penn State in this one. That is probably the way that I would lean. Wisconsin is extremely public. 96% of the tickets, only 93% of the cash. So they look like one of the most public plays of the day, especially because the public likes to go with these, known quantities, the bigger games. Oh, yeah, this game's on TV. It's a Big Ten game. They're going to want some action. They're probably going to play Wisconsin. Yeah, I would fade it if I was going to play it, but I don't have a strong opinion on it, really. Wisconsin dropped from 6.5 to 5.5 on the line as well. Next game up, I have a play in this one, too. So next game, we're going to go into the MAAC, where I'm going to go right back with Iona, who's been both good and bad to me, and most recently bad to me, but we're going to go on them again. We're going to take Iona on the money line here. I found them at plus 100 at even money out there because they're actually a small favorite in this game, but the money line market seems preferable to me in this one, although if you find a pick 'em at a better price than the money line price, do that, obviously, but look at the spread market, look at the money line market, find the best number. You know what I mean? Like, if you find any money line that's like minus 110 or less, I think that's the way that I would play it with Iona. Iona has 70% of the tickets, 91% of the cash on them here. And if you look at this line, it looks a little bit misleading because both teams have the same overall record, but Merrimack is 8-1 in conference, and Iona's 4-5. So who's going to really want to play Iona here? And if you look at the recent results, if the public looks at this game, they're not going to want Iona. But I'm going to tell you, as I've been saying, I think Merrimack is fake. I don't think they're that good. I think they're probably worse in this conference. They're probably worse than St. Peter's, Marist, Quinnipiac, Siena. Obviously, they're not worse than Iona because the odds makers are telling you they're not, by Iona only being a very small favorite at home here. But Merrimack is not as good as their record looks, man. They're probably the 4th or 5th best team in this conference. Merrimack is coming off a couple of huge wins. They beat Quinnipiac, who is one of the best teams in the conference. And then they went on the road and they beat Marist by double digits. Huge win here. Marist was a 6.5-point favorite in this game, and Merrimack beat them. Another huge win here for Merrimack, man. So I think their luck is going to run out. I think something's going to happen here, man. I think they're maybe going to be in a letdown here. Marist had a horrific shooting game in this game. They shot 33% from the field, 13% from three. Merrimack actually had 8 more field goal attempts in the game. Marist had 8 more field goal attempts in the game. Marist won the rebound battle, and they still lost the game, mostly because of the horrendous shooting performance from them, which I think that's an outlier. You know, when you see these unbelievably low shooting percentages, you got to think there's going to be some progression here. I don't see Iona being that inept shooting in this game. So, yeah, one of the things I look at, obviously, is the rebounds. Like, Marist out-rebounded them, and that's something that's more replicable, although I know Iona's not a very good rebounding team, though. But Iona, on the other hand, they're coming off another loss. They lost at St. Peter's. That was the loss that we took on the show. I thought it was a good spot to play Iona after their horrible game against Ryder. And I thought St. Peter's was in a bad spot. But now, I think this is where we want to do it, man. Even though I wanted to do it in the last game, too. But now Iona on a 2-game losing streak. Took another ugly loss. If you look at that game against St. Peter's, Iona, I mean, they shot fairly poorly in the game. They were awful from the free throw line, although they're not exactly a great free throw shooting team. They did get out-rebounded, which is a concern. But St. Peter's also, I don't know, they just outshot Iona, man. Iona had kind of an ugly shooting game, 36%. That should, I think, have some positive regression back to some sort of mean. Iona actually had more possessions in the game. They had more attempts, more field goal attempts in the game. So the game probably should have at least been closer than it was. But now they're back at home, like I said. Merrimack is not as good as they look. Iona in conference is actually undefeated at home, I believe. They're 3-0. Although they beat Niagara, that's an easy win. Canisius is actually not that bad this year, and Iona blew them out. And they beat Siena at home. That was a good win against Siena at home. So, yeah, I like Iona, man, for all these reasons. Then if we look at KenPom, it becomes more clear what we're doing here. He's got Iona 232nd, which obviously isn't good. Has them 29th in luck. I know that's not good either. Now, Iona is a very fast-paced team, so we are going to have a pacing mismatch in this game where Merrimack likes to slow the game way down. So Iona going fast might throw Merrimack out of what they want to do. Iona is one of these weird teams where they are actually better on defense than offense, even though they play fast. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly is possible they don't shoot that well again in this game, but I'm just explaining why Merrimack won against Marist in that game. Now, if we look at Merrimack, though, Merrimack is KenPom's second luckiest team in the nation, man. So Merrimack has massively overperformed, according to him. They're also really bad offensively. They're better defensively than offensively. He's got Merrimack somewhat better than Iona, but not by much. Only by whatever that is, 23 ranking spots or something like that, even though he actually does have Merrimack being the better offense slightly and the slightly worse defense. So interesting there. But Merrimack very, very, very lucky. So that is one thing that I also like to fade these teams that are unbelievably high in the luck index. And I know we're looking at two lucky teams here, but I still think Merrimack is kind of a fraud in this conference. So it's also a spot play. I think it's a good spot as well. So I think we have a lot of things coming together for this one. Iona is the play in that one. All right. Woo. Man, I'm tired. All right. Also in that conference, pretty good game, actually. Marist and Siena, which is only on ESPN Plus, but you might be able to find a way to watch this game. This game's probably going to be a pretty good game, actually. There's a competitive line in the game. Both teams are pretty similar in records, same conference record. Now, Marist, I could see this going two ways because Marist had that loss to Merrimack. Since Merrimack is high up in the conference, that was a game that Marist got up for. They lost, and they lost a win streak. So on the one hand, I could see it maybe being a hangover spot because they lost a win streak, but they also had a horrible shooting game and lost as a favorite at home. So I could also see them bouncing back from that in this game. As far as Siena is concerned, they're coming in with a little bit of momentum. They beat Fairfield in the last game, Manhattan the game before that. Nothing to really see there. So they're coming into this game with momentum, not a terrible spot for them either. So I think, for me, I think both teams will show up in this game. I think it's going to be an interesting one. The money is coming in at Siena, and there is that worry that Marist is maybe in the hangover spot here. Siena up from a pick'em to 1.5 here, 71% of the cash on them, 50-50 on the tickets. I'm not going to disagree with the Siena side in that one. It's a very strong market read on it. My situational read on it is not strong, but the bigger negative that could arise, I see being on the Marist side. So that's kind of the way that I look at that game. I will agree with a slight lean to Siena in that one. UNC Wilmington at William and Mary. Interesting game in the Colonial. Wilmington is still undefeated in the conference. I know I have Hofstra winning the conference right now, but it could be Wilmington. And Wilmington is still one of the best teams in this conference for sure. And they're coming off a close call, man. Wilmington just barely got by Campbell at home. So I like when teams are good and they have a close call. I think they're going to be focused in the next game, and I think that might happen here because William and Mary's been having a pretty decent season, so they're not really a team you're going to overlook. William and Mary comes into this game in decent shape as well because they did just end a 3-game losing streak. They got a win over NCAA, although NCAA, yeah, they're not a good team. Although I think they have this guy Walker. I mean, he's probably going to be in the NBA. Well, he's probably going to transfer to a bigger school. Then he's going to be in the NBA. So he's one guy that you want to look at. Like this guy, he's like NCAA's entire team, man. Lewis Walker, yeah, this guy, he's a freshman. He's 6'6", 230. This guy does everything for NCAA, though. So I would be on the lookout for that guy being on some bigger school in the future. And then probably, I think he's probably going to wind up in the NBA. That guy is good, man. You saw in that last game, he was 11 for 14 from the field. Oh, man. But it's just that, NCAA is just totally one-dimensional because it's just him and nobody else. But anyway, William and Mary got the win over that team. They broke a losing streak. I think they will be focused coming into this one. But I think both teams will be, and Wilmington is the better team here. William and Mary dropped from a 2-point favorite to a 1.5-point favorite, and they kind of look public. 88% of the tickets and cash. I don't know if that's really public action or if really, it's just it might just be a lot of professional money on this game, but I lean towards Wilmington in this game, so take that for what it's worth, I guess. Better team, getting points. That's kind of the way that I would like to look in that game. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that game, I don't think, but these college basketball games, man, you got to try to figure out like what these percentages mean, you know what I mean? Because these smaller conferences, a lot of these percentages, it's like, where is this money coming from is the question. And when it's a bigger game, yeah, you can kind of pretty much gauge where the public is because there are more public tickets. But a smaller game like this, a lot of the tickets are probably professional tickets, you know what I mean? Because the public's not really playing these games as much. And then, you can kind of see here, too, actually, this is something I haven't really talked about, but pregame also gives you a look at the books that they track, and they tell you, like, where each book is. And, like, Bovada kind of always, like, juices up the favorite, but Bovada's, like, a pretty square online book, and the fact that they're at 2, and, like, Circa is actually a known, like, sharp book in Vegas, so, like, a lot of the professionals play there. The fact that Circa is at 1 and Bovada's at 2, that kind of gives you another indication that actually maybe the sharp money, professional money, may be on Wilmington in that game as well. So that's just another indicator that you can use here. You know what I mean? Like, you have to know what all these books are really and which ones are square, etc. You know, like DraftKings is pretty much DraftKings is weird because professionals use it too because it's just easy to use and it's online, you know. But like Bet Online, I think is I would say Bet Online is more of a sharp-ish outlet on because it's one of those online books that I think you kind of have to jump through some hoops to use it. Well, I don't think I should be I don't think I could can I talk about these books on YouTube? I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe I should not mention them. But all right. I could talk about like DraftKings and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure. All right. What's next? CW has Campbell at Charleston, so this is actually a televised game for whatever reason in the Colonial. We're staying in the Colonial here. I'm still calling it the Colonial. I refuse to call it the Coastal. Now, Campbell did just have that big game, actually kind of 2 big games in a row. They took Elon to the limit on the road and then went to UNC Wilmington and almost beat them as well. Well, I don't want to say almost. Well, it was a close game if you look at the game flow in that game. So, yeah, they could have won that game. They only lost by 3 as a pretty big road underdog there. So, 3rd straight road game now of 2 big games. Even though Charleston is one of the big names in this conference, I could see Campbell kind of running out of steam here, man. And Charleston, they're coming off kind of a bad performance against Stony Brook, so I could see them bouncing back from this, but I would worry a little bit because this was a double overtime game against Stony Brook, so Charleston might be a little bit tired coming out of that game too, but Charleston probably should have won the game. They were the favorite there. Stony Brook is not that good, so I would slightly lean towards Charleston in this game. They are up from 3-3 with juice, although the money is coming back on the Campbell side. 64% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on Campbell. You know, I just don't want to play Campbell off of that big performance, man, against UNC Wilmington, but I worry because Charleston is coming off a double OT game, you know, so it takes a lot out of you to do that, even if you are losing the game as a favorite or whatever, so take all that into consideration there in that one. All right. Next game up is a game that I will actually give out a play on. I actually have 2 Colonial games. These are my last 2 plays in college basketball. We're going to be on Towson, who I think continues to be an under-the-radar, underrated commodity here, man. I don't think I've played them this year, but I did tell you I thought they were going to be Charleston the other night, and they did. Now, Towson followed that up with a bad performance against Drexel. Drexel's pretty bad, like one of the worst teams in this conference. Towson was definitely a favorite in this game, probably 7.5. Yeah, 7.5, maybe 8 actually. So Towson was a pretty substantial favorite in that game, and they almost lost the game to Drexel. And I think that was because the win against Charleston was pretty big, and maybe because they had Elon on deck, and Elon is near the top of the conference, man. So I think they might have been looking ahead a little bit to Elon here. I think they're going to give you a good performance in this one, man. This Towson team is not as bad as they look. They're easy to overlook right now because they're low in the conference standings. But you look at what they've done in the conference. I mean, one of their losses is to Hofstra. One was on the road to William and Mary. I mean, those losses are acceptable losses. Hampton and Monmouth, maybe not so much. But I do think Towson is underrated right now, and Ken Baum will kind of bear that out as well. Now, we're going to fade Elon here, and I think Elon is maybe a little bit overrated. I think they're a little bit fraudulent, to be honest. And Elon is coming off one of the biggest wins they could have. They just beat Hofstra on the road, man. Hofstra, as I showed you with my bracketology, I actually have them winning the Colonial right now. I think it is going to be either them or UNC Wilmington. Elon got that win. That was a huge win for Elon. bouncing back after Elon not getting a whole lot of wins recently, though. Actually, he's getting some wins now against Ashley St. Clair because she's looking like an insane person. Elon went into Hofstra and beat them, man. So this game, yeah, I mean, it was a big game for them. Hofstra was a 5.5-point favorite. Hofstra's near the top of the conference. Big win for Elon. Looking at what happened in the game, statistically, Elon had a really good shooting game, 52% from the floor. Both teams shot well from three-point range. Elon did get more free throw attempts for whatever reason. Now, Hofstra did out-rebound them, but Hofstra did lose the turnover battle, which maybe was part of the reason they lost that game. But I do like the fact that we're fading Elon here, and they did lose the rebound battle in that game. So we're going to go with Towson in this game, man. It looks like the market read is pretty strong on Towson in this one. Elon's still a 2.5-point favorite. They're a little bit public, 71% of the tickets, but 95% of the cash on Towson. So I like a market read like that. Hopefully it still looks like that at the end of the night. But yeah, Towson is the next play. Oh, and we got to look at KenPom as well. KenPom has Towson 170th in the country, although he actually does have them lucky, 63rd. So I do worry about that. They're good defensively, though, man. 89th defensively. They can't score, but they are good on the defensive side. They play slow, which I believe Elon does not. Yeah, Elon's like more of a mid-tempo team, but Elon is horrendous defensively. Elon's not even in the top 300 defensively, but they are good offensively. They're 74th. Elon's somewhat lucky as well in the mid-tier luck index, but we're getting the better defense, getting points here with Towson, man. And you know that's another thing I like to look at. Towson is the significantly better defense in this game, so you know I like to look for that as well. So we're getting that with Towson as well in that game. So those are my thoughts on that. Okay. Next up, we do have a CBS Sports Network game in the Colonial, and it's Monmouth and Hampton. Why is this game? Dude, I have no idea why this game is on TV. I honestly don't. Like, some of these other games are much better games, including that one that I just talked about. Monmouth just beat Northeastern at home. Fine win for Monmouth. I actually think Northeastern might have been a favorite in this game. No, Monmouth was a 3.5-point favorite. My mistake. But, yeah, I mean, Northeastern's kind of under the radar, man. They're actually not as bad as people think they are. Monmouth got the win there. They're going on the road to Hampton. I don't know what to think about this game. And Hampton is not exactly a team that you're going to pay a ton of attention to. And Hampton did just get that win over NCAAB and break a 3-game losing streak. Now, they do have Wilmington up next, but Hampton, you know, I don't know if it's going to be a look-ahead spot for them or not. I have trouble trying to figure out the side in this game. Obviously, this is not a play for me. I don't really have an opinion on this game. The money is saying Hampton for what it's worth. They're a 1-point favorite, 62% of the tickets, 79% of the cash on Hampton. Now, obviously, the odds makers are telling you Monmouth is the better team. Yes, that's true. I'll probably agree with the market read right now and agree with Hampton on this one, but I don't have a strong opinion at all in that game. And then as far as Hofstra is concerned, going to NCAAB, I do think Hofstra should be in a bounce-back spot because I think part of the reason they lost to Elon was the hangover because Hofstra was undefeated in conference, and they took a loss at Stony Brook. And you know I talk about that when you haven't lost for a long, long time. Sometimes it hangs you over into the next game. So I think I leaned Elon in that game. Elon got the outright win, but now I think this might be where the bounce-back happens for Hofstra, and they come back and they actually win a game. They should because they're the better team here. And then NCAAB, they'll show up for a game against Hofstra, but NCAAB is just not good, man. And yes, they're going to be one of those desperate teams that still doesn't have a conference win, so they'll show up for the game. But if you're going to get a focused Hofstra team and they're the better team, I would probably have to lay it with them in that game. They're up from 9 to 9.5, but obviously that's not a play for me. And, of course, as I told you, NCAAB is a one-man show where if you shut him down at all, you shut the whole team down. Even if you don't shut him down, it's not like he can do enough single-handedly. So those are my thoughts there. And next up is my final play. We're going to the Boston, guys, so that means I cannot actually make this play in Massachusetts. But I'll give it to you guys. Northeastern, minus the points, is going to be the play. And when you look at this line right away, this line should kind of jump out at you. Like, what is going on with this? Why is Northeastern a 3.5-point favorite when they're 6-12 overall? Stony Brook's 11-9 overall. And Stony Brook has a better conference record, yet Northeastern is laying points. It makes no sense. So the line looks really, really sus right away. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, Stony Brook has had a very weak schedule. And basically, anytime they had any remotely decent opponent, they've pretty much lost. And they've lost to some bad opponents, too. Their best win really is the one against Hofstra, man. No lie. They don't really have any impressive wins at all. This Stony Brook team they're not that good. They're not as good as their record looks. I'm going to show you in a minute. Ken Baum has them really high in the luck index. And we're fading them because look at what they just did in their last 3 games. They played to within 4 of UNC Wilmington, who's one of the best teams in the conference. They upset Hofstra, one of the best teams in the conference. And then they played Charleston, who's one of the better teams in the conference, and upset them as well and played them into double overtime. And now they're coming off of that run of games and having to go out on the road. I think they're going to be massively flat in this game off of that run of 3 games. Those were huge, huge performances from them. And by the way, their road conference games, yeah, they have not been good. They are 0-3 on the road in conference play. They lost by 3 at Hampton. They lost by 19 at William & Mary, and they lost by 19 at Drexel and only scored 37 points in that game. Pretty pathetic. So Stony Brook has been awful in road conference games so far. Northeastern, on the other hand, they did play a more difficult out-of-conference schedule, man. They had to play Wake Forest. They only lost by 13. They only lost by 8 against Syracuse, and those were both on the road. They had to play at Rhode Island. That's not really easy either, only losing by 8 there. So Northeastern's definitely a bit more battle-tested here. And even in conference play, they actually haven't been that bad. They have a win over Elon. They lost by 9 at home to UNC Wilmington. That's not a bad loss. They actually played Elon twice already and lost both. They lost to Towson, who I said is under the radar. Northeastern's actually played a fairly difficult conference schedule, but now they're coming off a pretty ugly loss at Monmouth, as I pointed out. And if you look at this game, Northeastern they were really bad from three-point range, for one thing. They only hit 4 threes. Monmouth hit 10. So that was kind of a disparity there. Northeastern only 17% from 3. That wasn't good. But Northeastern had a horrendous time with the turnover battle here, man, which is part of the reason they lost this game the way they did. -9 in turnovers. You're not going to win the game more often than not when you're -9 in turnovers. You have 18 turnovers. I think back at home, Northeastern is going to clean that up. That's something you can clean up. A lot of it is fundamentals. So I like it. I like how it sets up for Northeastern to bounce back here. And looking at Ken Baum, his numbers are going to bear this out a little bit, even though I think he only has Northeastern winning this game by maybe 2. So I know we're kind of bucking Ken Baum a little bit here, but he's got Northeastern pretty unlucky at 275th in luck. He has them as having faced the 179th strength of schedule, so moderate strength of schedule. They're fast, and by the way, Stony Brook is not, so Northeastern might be able to speed the game up and throw them off. And yes, Northeastern is pretty bad defensively, but they're fine offensively. So I think Northeastern should shoot better in this game than they did in the previous game because they're actually much better offensively than defensively. Now, for Stony Brook, they're not really good on either side of the ball, man. Ken Baum does have them as the worst of the two teams, obviously. He has Stony Brook as having faced the less difficult schedule, which I already showed you, 267, and he has them the 25th luckiest team in the country, and they play slow, like I said, so if Northeastern speeds the tempo up, that might throw Stony Brook out of what they want to do. Stony Brook is really not good on either side of the ball, defense, offense. They're actually just bad all around. They're a balanced bad team, although technically they actually do have the better defense. They are technically the better defense getting points, but in this spot, I'm not doing that. I'm going with Northeastern. Northeastern's already up to 4, it looks like here. 80% of the tickets, 100% of the cash. Probably not accurate, but we're going with Northeastern in this one. The total, I know, is not that high at 147, but we're doing it anyway here. It's a small spread, I think, and it's one of those misleading lines, man. Northeastern is the play in that one. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. What else do we have here? Some of these other games, man. We do have in the Sunbelt. We have Arkansas State at Georgia Southern. This is somewhat interesting. Arkansas State's lost a couple games in a row. Troy got their in-season revenge on them in the second rematch of the conference final from last year, which Troy won. Arkansas State now playing a third straight road game, though, off of playing South Alabama and Troy, so that makes it a little bit of a difficult spot, man. And I know I've been talking about how Georgia Southern is not as good as their record looks. I think they're a fraud. I actually don't buy Southern Miss either. I think Troy is the best team in the Sun Belt, and I actually think maybe Arkansas State might be the second best. So I'm really not buying Georgia Southern, but in this spot, I think the spot might actually be better for Georgia Southern. They're coming off an ugly home loss to Coastal Carolina. That was not a good performance from Georgia Southern. They might have been looking ahead here, man. I think they might have a better performance in this one, although they do have Troy on deck, but they're not going to overlook Arkansas State, in my opinion. Arkansas State should try to show up for this game too, but the fact that it's a third straight road game, I actually prefer Georgia Southern in this one. Arkansas State is down from 2.5 to 2. So the money looks like it did come in a little bit that way. But I don't like playing on these teams that I think are way overrated, though, like Georgia Southern. I don't think it's that strong of a situation either, but slight lean for me to Georgia Southern in that one, even though I know they're not the better team of the two. So usually if it's a spot where both teams are going to show up, I do kind of prefer the better team, but I worry that Arkansas State might be a little bit tired coming into it. So those are my thoughts on that. I don't think I have much else to say about the Sun Belt, really, though. Okay. And then we do have some other conferences in action here. We do have Ohio Valley action. We have some Summit action as well here. The best game in the Ohio Valley here is probably this Little Rock Southeast Missouri State game. This game kind of looks odd right away as well, where you see Southeast Missouri State, SEMO is a 6.5-point favorite, even though they're 10-10 and only 5-4 in conference. Little Rock 9-10, but 6-2 in conference. So, why is SEMO a big favorite here? Well, again, the odds makers are telling you they're actually the better team here, even though Little Rock's been good in the conference so far. Little Rock, I don't hate the spot for Little Rock here, though, because they just had a pretty lackluster effort against a pretty bad Western Illinois team. Little Rock barely got by them. They won by 7, but that game was fairly close. So I think they might have been looking ahead, so I do expect them to show up in this game. Southeast Missouri, though, they're definitely better than their record looks. They did get that win. I think I told you that I liked them in that game against UT Martin. Southeast Missouri, I think, was favored in that game, and that line looked a little weird in that game too, and that ended a 3-game losing streak for them as well. But it was a big win, so that's the problem I have with SEMO in this game. You end a losing streak, it can give you new momentum here, and they should show up for a game against Little Rock because Little Rock's above them in the standings, but they beat the team that's in first place, UT Martin, and they beat them convincingly in their last game, so there might be a little bit of a letdown component to this thing here. So I probably prefer Little Rock in this game, even though I know they're actually not the better team here. And the line is one of those lines that looks very confusing. And the line is it's almost like the odds makers are telling you what you need to know here. And that as a professional, you should be playing SEMO in this game. I'm staying away from it. But again, I think the situation is actually a little bit more favorable to Little Rock. SEMO up from 5.5 to 6 there. All right. What else do we have? We do have a little bit of a weird situation in Eastern Illinois and Southern Indiana. This is an awful game, but I just noticed it because Eastern Illinois just played a non-Division I team, kind of one of these weird spots where these non-Division I opponents kind of leak in there, and that can kind of serve as like a tune-up, get your momentum back. So I think that gives Eastern Illinois some positive momentum after losing to Little Rock. Now they have a win against a non-D1 team. They won't be overconfident about that. Meanwhile, for Southern Indiana, they played pretty close at Tennessee State in their last game. Southern Indiana was definitely an underdog in that game. Tennessee State's second in the Ohio Valley standings right now, although I don't really think that they're that good. But that was still a big game for Southern Indiana. They're coming off that game, so I think I would have to lean towards Eastern Illinois in that one, coming off that new momentum starter. Money disagrees with me on that, though, so I disagree with the market on this one. Southern Indiana up from 2-2 with juice, 50-50 on the tickets, and 92% of the cash on the Southern Indiana Screaming Eagles. What are they? Yeah, the Screaming Eagles. Great name. Why are the Eagles screaming, man? Because they're endangered? I don't know what's going on here. Eastern Illinois, by the way, many people don't remember. That's Tony Romo's alma mater there. Tony Romo, one of the somewhat rare Division II NFL quarterbacks. Or no, not Division II. Eastern Illinois FCS. What am I saying? But somewhat rare FCS quarterbacks, I should say. But yes, Tony Romo played at Eastern Illinois. All right. I think that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, but I disagree with the market on that one. At least I think. Am I getting that wrong? It was Romo, right? I don't know. Summit League, we have South Dakota State at St. Thomas. This is a decent game. St. Thomas is definitely the better team, though. South Dakota State's a little bit down this year. They just get a win over Kansas City, the Roos, which should give them a little bit of momentum, at least coming into this game. Kansas City's a really bad team. St. Thomas is, of course, coming off their first conference loss, and it was a big one to North Dakota State, who's really their only competition in this conference, legitimately. That was a tough game, man. It was on the road. North Dakota State got a nice win in that one. St. Thomas now loses a huge win streak, so I think that could hang them over into this game. Like I always say, when a team loses a big win streak, especially in a step-up game like that, I think they could be in a hangover coming off of that, so I prefer South Dakota State in this game. The money doesn't agree with me for some reason, but yeah, I disagree with the market on this one. 50-50 on the tickets, 71% of the cash on St. Thomas. They're up from 6-7. I would like to see the Tommies finally make a tournament appearance and then, of course, lose in the first game or whatever. But, I'd like to see it. They're the better team here, but I just don't see them being in a great spot here, man. So I would lean South Dakota State in that one. And then we have North Dakota State on the other end of that at Denver, which, yes, I think North Dakota State is in a bit of a letdown spot here. That was a big win over St. Thomas after North Dakota State beat South Dakota State the previous game, and there's still kind of a rivalry there as well. Now they have to go into elevation to play Denver. Maybe not that easy to do. Denver, not exactly a great team, although you can pick your spots with Denver and they can do some good things for you, which we've been able to have that happen to us. I think we had them as a winner against UNC, Northern Colorado, who continues to struggle, man, surprisingly, in the Big Sky there. But yeah, Denver, you can pick spots with them and they can do some good things for you. They just beat Oral Roberts, who's really, really bad this year. So all that'll give Denver some new momentum coming into this one. So I probably prefer Denver in this one. I do think North Dakota State is in a letdown spot here. The money doesn't seem to really agree with me on that one either, although North Dakota State does look public, 75% of the tickets, but 91% of the cash on them. They're a 5-point favorite. The number actually ticked down a little bit on them. Interesting. But yes, I prefer Denver in that one for sure. Okay, UC San Diego and UC Davis, Big West action. This is actually an interesting game. UC San Diego looks like they're kind of the second best team in this conference now to Hawaii. They've taken a couple of losses here. They did bounce back nicely with a win over Bakersfield. Now they're coming in to face UC Davis here. They got UC Irvine on deck, which is a big game, but I don't know that they're going to overlook Davis, who's right behind them. Davis did just get a big win themselves over UC Irvine. So they're going to have to play 2 big games in a row here. And while I don't think they're going to overlook a team like UC San Diego, I kind of prefer UC San Diego in this game. But the money is disagreeing with me on that too. They're still the better team. They're down from 3 to 1.5 here, though. Don't see the percentages yet. But it looks like the market disagrees with me. But I just think UC Davis might run out of steam a little bit. And UC San Diego has some new momentum coming into that one. We do have some Big Sky action here as well with Weber State at Montana. Weber State is kind of tied in third place in the Big Sky. I guess they're in fourth place based on the tiebreakers right behind the team that they're playing here, Montana. So these two teams are tied in the standings. Weber State just lost to Idaho at home. Idaho's a decent team, although I think Weber State had to have been a favorite in this game. They actually were not. Idaho was actually a small road favorite. Idaho actually the better team. So Weber State, yeah, coming off that loss, it did break a 4-game win streak for them. I don't really see them overlooking Montana, though. And by the way, it's not the case here, but you do have to start looking, as we're in conference play here, you do have to start looking at the fact that a lot of these conference games are going to be second meetings of the season. So you want to dig into that first meeting, like see what happened. Like, was there an outlier? Like, you know, was the game not really what it appeared on the scoreboard? Stuff like that. And usually it'll tilt me one way or the other, you know, kind of depending on that. I don't use it as like the only factor, but I might use it as like an added factor, especially with a team that lost the first game at home and now they're a road underdog in the second game. I do like to look at those teams, but I don't have any of them today. Anyway, Weber is at Montana here. This is not one of these second meetings either. Montana just had a bounce-back win against Northern Arizona after Montana lost to their rival, Montana State. They're coming back home here after they've been on the road for 4 games, and the road trip return is not the same in college, as I keep saying. I actually think returning back home is more of a good thing in college because you know these guys don't have families to get back to here. Although, yeah, well, technically they have class to get back to and whatever. Yeah, okay. I don't think it's that big a deal, but yeah, I do slightly lean to Montana in this game. I think they are the better team. They're up from 3.5 to 5.5 here now. 90% of the tickets and 99% of the cash on them, which probably not accurate, but it looks like the real money is on Montana, but you've lost some value on Montana there, but I agree with it. And then Idaho State at Montana State is actually, I think, a more interesting one. Idaho State just took a pretty ugly loss to Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington has a really, really bad overall record, although I think they're not quite that bad. I think Eastern Washington's more of like a middle-of-the-road team in the Big Sky this year. It's just they had a really difficult out-of-conference schedule, so there are probably some spots to play Eastern Washington. But that was still an ugly loss for Idaho State, losing at home by 18 points to that team. Idaho State had played Idaho the game before that, so I think I might have said I leaned Eastern Washington in that game because Idaho State, it was a big win against their rival Idaho, and they had Montana State and Montana on deck, so it definitely looked like a sandwich spot there against Eastern Washington. Now they are going to Montana State, who may be the best team in the Big Sky this year. Montana State's coming off another big win, unfortunately, because I gave out Northern Colorado in that game, and they couldn't get it done for us. Montana State got the win. They swept Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado, yeah, I know, man, they're 1-6 in conference, but I still think they're one of like the top 3 or 4 teams in this conference. It's just ridiculous. Montana State now, yeah, coming off 2 huge wins now against Montana, their main rival, and Northern Colorado. Now they got this game against Idaho State. They got Weber on deck, and Weber is right behind them in the standings. So I think they might overlook Idaho State. So, yes, I definitely like Idaho State in this game. And there is also this common opponent here where Montana State beat Eastern Washington on the road, and Eastern Washington just beat Idaho State. So I think if the public looks at this game, they'll probably be looking towards Montana State here, but I like Idaho State plus the points in that one. Montana State's up to a 6-point favorite. That one was somewhat close to being on my card, but I do prefer Idaho State plus the points there. Portland State at Eastern Washington. This is kind of an interesting line where Portland State's only laying like 3.5 here, and they're an 11-5 team, undefeated in the Big Sky right now. And Eastern Washington, like I said, they have that horrible 4-14 overall record. But again, they're a very battle-tested team, so it's an interesting line where it looks very, very easy to play Portland State here, but I'm not sure that Portland State is totally legit. I think that Eastern Washington is not really as bad as they look. Portland State has faced a fairly weak conference schedule so far. Coming into this game off of beating Northern Arizona. Now they're going on the road. They did win their 2 road conference games, but they only won by 5 and 6 against Weber and Idaho State. I mean, those are not bad wins by any means, but still, they're going on the road again here. They haven't really been able to win by huge margins on the road. Eastern Washington did just have that upset win, though, so that's kind of my hesitation here, that they just pulled off a nice upset win over Idaho State. So I do worry about that, although at home they've done some decent things. They beat Montana here at home, and they lost by 4 to Montana State at home. So this Eastern Washington team has not been bad at home. And like I said, look at their out-of-conference schedule. UCLA, Colorado, Utah, BYU. They played some pretty strong out-of-conference teams here and lost all those games, I believe. So, I lead to Eastern Washington in that game, but I worry that they are coming off that big upset win. Portland State up from 1.5 to 3, 92% of the tickets, only 82% of the cash on them. So the public is on them. And the line opening at 1.5 is crazy. Like, the oddsmakers had to have been expecting kind of public action on Portland State. Like, it looks way too easy to play them at a pick-the-winner price. I mean, that's insane. But you're getting more value on Eastern Washington there if you want it at the +3. ESPNU has this Ohio Valley game between Tennessee State and SIU Edwardsville. Tennessee State's in second place in the conference. They just barely got by I almost said screaming Indiana, Southern Indiana. They're the new Florida, Illinois. Southern Indiana, Tennessee State just barely got by them, so they might have been looking ahead or something. They were coming off a big, I think, overtime game, against Morehead State, so Tennessee State was kind of in a bad spot there. I think they're going to show up with more effort in this game against SIU Edwardsville. SIU Edwardsville coming into this game off of beating SEMO on the road, man. That was a big win for SIU Edwardsville. SEMO was a favorite here, 9.5-point favorite. SEMO was, so despite what their record looks like, SEMO was the better team here. SIU Edwardsville pulled off a big upset there, so I see them maybe being in a little bit of a letdown spot here. My issue with it is that I don't think they're going to overlook the second-place team in the conference, So that's the one issue that I have with it, although I prefer Tennessee State in this game based on the spot. The line is a pick-em, so oddsmakers telling you Tennessee State is indeed the better team here. And the team's records are fairly close to each other. Although I guess, if people just look at conference records, they'll probably want Tennessee State in the game, but I think they might be right in that game. And then CBS Sports has Justin's team, Missouri State, playing against New Mexico State in New Mexico State here in the Conference USA. Now, New Mexico State, they have almost the same record as Missouri State, yet they're laying 6.5. So that should tell you something, that New Mexico State is actually the better team here by multiple points, as the oddsmakers are telling you. Missouri State is also coming off a double overtime game against Middle Tennessee, and they already beat New Mexico State once at home. So I think New Mexico State could have some adjustments to make here from that game. If you look at what happened in that game, Missouri State shot ridiculously from 3, and that's kind of the thing that jumps out from that game. Missouri State 48% from 3. Like, that's unlikely to happen again. New Mexico State actually out-rebounded them by 1. Nothing else to really see here. Well, the other big thing is that Missouri State went to the line 16 more times, and they were +10 in free throw makes. So that's another reason why they won this game. Missouri State was only a 1.5-point favorite in that game. So, I think there will be some things that probably regress a bit for them here. And again, they're also coming off a double overtime game where they almost pulled off a huge upset at Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee, one of the top teams in the conference here. Not huge, but 5.5 point upset there. So Missouri State, I think it sets up pretty badly for them in this game, man. I'm considering New Mexico State on the fly here because obviously I like them in this game. But let me remind myself what my thoughts were here. It's a third straight road game for Missouri State as well. So, and fourth in the last 5 games. So that's not easy whatsoever. So the spot is pretty bad for them. Now, New Mexico State, it's a good spot for them. They just bounced back with a win over Delaware. They're coming back home. The last time they were at home, they lost to Middle Tennessee. So they might want to bounce back from that because teams that come back home and they lost their last home game, they tend to play better. They beat Delaware to bounce back, but New Mexico State was actually coming off 2 difficult games, man, against Middle Tennessee and then on the road at Liberty where they played them to within 2. So I'm surprised that they crushed Delaware like that. And that was one of our losses on the show, actually. So New Mexico State was actually in a bad spot in that game, and they still murdered Delaware in that game. So that does tell you something. It's New Mexico State team. They're not, rolling over or anything like that. Now, for New Mexico State, Ken Baum has them 124th, which isn't bad. They're almost in the top 150 in both offense and defense. They're one of the unluckiest teams in the nation, 357th. So some of that is looking pretty good by Ken Baum, by the way. I'm about to show you because I haven't looked. Wow, Ken Baum has them winning this game by 9 points, man. I think we might have to do this one, even though you want to just use Ken Baum as kind of like a check. Like, you don't want to just blindly do it because his numbers are season long. There could be injuries that come into play and whatever that his numbers don't factor in, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm kind of liking this one for New Mexico State here, man. Well, let me look at who are we looking at? Oh, Missouri State. Sorry, Justin. Missouri State is outside the top 200 in both offense and defense. They're mid-tier luck, so much luckier team. They play a slow tempo. Yeah, New Mexico State is better on both sides of the ball. They play somewhat slow as well, but you know what? I think there is some value here in New Mexico State. Let me see. Missouri State looks pretty public, 81% of the tickets, so they have 84% of the cash right now, but I think we might be getting an anti-public home favorite here, maybe. Total's not that high at 144 because the teams play slow, but man, I mean, New Mexico State's the better all-around team. 6 seems like a really low number, and the spot seems to check out too. I think we have to do it. So I'm going to have a pretty loaded Thursday card here if that's the case. Let me see here. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm looking at, here we are. I'm looking at Ken Baum, Action Network right now. Dude, the score actually has them at 5.5. That is the score. It looks like predominantly it's 6 out there, though. But yes, I would, let's do it. We're going to be on New Mexico State. -5.5, -6, whatever you want. Hopefully there's not going to be much of a difference there between the two. Stupid StreamYard with the stupid banners here. All right, so that's the last place. There's some night action, and it's a TV game for you. So there you go. New Mexico State minus the points. Okay. And then, I don't know if I had anything really to say about the rest of these games here. I don't know. Not much to say, really, about the rest of these games, in my opinion. I mean, if you want me to go back to one of them, I guess. But, all right, let's go to hockey here, man. We have a decent amount of hockey games here. I think about 8 games here, and I'm skipping the entire hockey board. I don't like the board here. I'm cooling it on hockey today, man. I'm putting hockey on ice for the day. Vegas is at my Boston Bruins. Vegas just lost a long win streak, man. I believe we lost that game on Vegas. And you know what I talk about. When a team loses a long win streak, sometimes it will hang them over into the next game. So that's not a good thing for Vegas. They have 2 days off here. They're starting a road trip, and that's a positive. When you're starting a road trip, days off also might help you kind of get over that loss. But I wouldn't say they went into the days off on losing momentum, though. They really just lost all that momentum in the last game. So I think that is a negative, but starting a road trip is usually a positive because you want to focus on hockey, and it helps you to just get out of there, leave home, go on the road, focus on hockey. The Bruins are actually returning home from a road trip, and I know these short road trips, I've basically kind of been saying, well, they're not like full road trip returns, so it's less of a bad spot, which is true, but last couple of times I said that we went 0-1-1 over the last couple of days in the NBA and in hockey. Bruins are returning home. Now, they also lost a win streak. It was a 2-game road trip, Saturday, Tuesday, Chicago and Dallas. They lost at Dallas pretty badly, and that game ended their win streak. So both teams just had a win streak snapped in the last game. Now, the Bruins' win streak was less impressive. The Bruins are still not that good. I mean, they've beaten mostly bad teams during that stretch, during that win streak. So I could see them being hung over as well. They are having to return home here They're not going to overlook Vegas, but I don't think the spot is very good for the Bruins here. When I looked earlier, the market read was indicating on the Bruins, though. It is. Vegas is down from minus 140 to minus 129. Some reverse line movement here. Vegas, 56% of the tickets, 61% of the cash on the Bruins. So I guess do with that information what you want to. The market read is saying the Bruins. I don't really agree with it, but, you know, it's a strong market read, so I don't want to disagree with it, really. So, I don't know, take from all that what you want to, I guess. But hopefully the market is right for my rooting interests. Buffalo at Montreal. Buffalo, let me see. Buffalo coming into this game, they beat Nashville in their last game. They're playing a third game in 4 days now, and fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities, which isn't that easy. They did beat Montreal back on January 15th at home as well, so maybe Montreal will have some adjustments to make coming into this one. Montreal coming off a pretty big win against Minnesota, and that was actually in a return home spot, and they still won. Not overlooking Minnesota. I still think they're in the better spot probably, though, because second game back home. They do have Boston next, so that's, you know, kind of a rivalry between Montreal and Boston. The Bruins also have that game up next, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think this is really a game that Montreal is going to overlook, so I kind of lean to Montreal on this one. The money's disagreeing with me on this one, too. Montreal down from minus 135 to minus 118. You can see why I'm skipping this board today. 71% of the tickets, 89% of the cash on Buffalo. Money coming in on Buffalo. I think the spot is more difficult for Buffalo, and there's that little quick, not really revenge, but like adjustment angle to what Montreal did in the last game against Buffalo. So I kind of prefer Montreal in that one. Hindian, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. That's kind of gay, bro. All right. Chicago at Carolina. Of course, Carolina is going to be a big favorite in this one. Chicago coming into this game. By the way, if you saw Carolina, they tweeted out about Bussy. Finally, their new young goaltender, Bussy. They got the young Bussy on their team, man. He's been doing well. He set some record. I forget what it was, but no, Kyle, I have 5 college basketball and I have 2 NBA plays as well. 0 NHL though. But yes, I do have NBA plays. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Bussy. I don't know. I forget what the record was. You can go look it up. He has some, I don't know. He's some record that he set for some goalie record within a goalie's first 20 or so games or something. I don't know. You can go look it up. I need to get a Bussy jersey, man. I really do. And I'm hoping that is how his name is pronounced. But he's the new star goaltender for the Hurricanes, man. It's real. I've been making fun of his name on the show for a while, but now everybody's onto it because Carolina tweeted out about him yesterday, and they were having fun with people's comments on it too. So their Twitter account is all right. But anyway, Chicago, they just ended a 3-game loss streak with a win over Winnipeg. Fine win for them. They've had a couple of days off. They just have this single-game road trip to Carolina, which is kind of weird. And tomorrow they do have an ESPN game against Tampa Bay. This game today is on Hulu for whatever reason. But I don't really think Chicago's going to overlook Carolina. So I think they do come into this with some new momentum after they busted that losing streak. Carolina has a 3-game win streak right now. But they've had a couple of days off, and they're just sitting at home, and that might actually be worse for them. And they have Ottawa next. I don't think they're going to really look ahead to Ottawa. But, yeah, I mean, I think the spot might actually set up slightly better for Chicago in this game. Carolina's very public, and they dropped from minus 305 to minus 285. 92% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on Carolina. So they're very public. It looks like the cash is on them a little bit, but I don't think that really means that much. I think if you take Chicago, you are fading the public. So, I mean, you could go like a puck line on that or something, but I don't love the game. Dallas is going to Columbus here. Dallas just smoked the Bruins. Dallas was winning that game 6-0 at one point in the game. Bruins definitely got outplayed. They had a bad game. Dallas coming into this game now, a single game road trip to Columbus, which is weird. And then Dallas plays St. Louis next. Will they look ahead to St. Louis? I don't know, man. I don't even know when the last time they played St. Louis even was. Actually, they lost to St. Louis earlier this year, so maybe they'll remember that. Maybe they do have more reason to focus on St. Louis than Columbus. I don't know, man. I don't know if they played Columbus this year at all, actually. I don't see it. So I don't know. It is a weird spot, though, coming off a blowout win, although that ended a losing streak for Dallas. Maybe it gives them a little bit of momentum, but I don't know, man. They might be looking ahead to coming back home to face St. Louis in the next game, as weird as that sounds. Columbus just lost ugly 4-1 on Tuesday, and they're staying at home, and that ended a win streak for them, which sometimes will hang you over, but I think they're going to show up, man. I mean, you're not really going to overlook Dallas, so I do prefer Columbus in this one, so I agree with the market in this one. Pretty strong market read on Columbus in this one. This one, it's still not really a strong opinion for me, though. Dallas is down from -125 to -116, so it looks way too easy to play Dallas here. I'm wondering if maybe Dallas is going with DeSmith in net here so they can use Ottinger tomorrow. I'm not sure, but 70% of the tickets on Dallas, 62% of the cash on Columbus, so looks like a big pros versus Joes market read in that one with reverse line movement against Dallas. So, and I agree with that one on Columbus. So that's the info on that one. Ottawa at Nashville. By the way, I'm still pissed about Nashville not getting it done for us the other day. Nashville, by the way, they actually outplayed whoever it was. I forget who they lost to, but they outplayed them statistically in the game, which really, really pisses me off. So they probably could have won that game, and they came back and still gave themselves a chance to maybe win that game, which also irritates me more. Yeah, it was against Buffalo. So Nashville's coming off that game. That was a tough game for Nashville, man. They came back and could have potentially won that game, and now that's what they're coming off of. Although they have lost 2 games, they had some rest before that. Ottawa's coming into this game of a blowout win over Columbus. 4-1, which I just mentioned, on the road. Now they are playing another road game here. They do have Carolina on deck, though, so that might be a bit of a look ahead for Ottawa. So I don't love the spot for Ottawa at all. I probably would lean to Nashville, unfortunately, in that game, but I don't want it in this one. Ottawa's -115, 64% of the tickets on them, 67% of the cash coming back on Nashville. Money is saying Nashville. I agree, but yeah, I don't want any piece of it. Florida is at Winnipeg. Florida just had a pretty ugly home loss to San Jose, and we had a win on that one. And that was the game where there was the goaltender fight and the brawl and all that stuff the other day. That was a horrible spot for Florida. That's why I played San Jose. It was a road trip sandwich as Florida was returning over from a huge road trip. Then they had another road trip starting after it, so that was a bad spot for them. They had a bad game. I think now they're going back out on the road. They should be focused here. A couple of days off to break free from that loss. They should show up for this game, and although they do play Minnesota next, and they might actually get caught looking ahead to Minnesota. Now, Winnipeg, they're not going to overlook Florida. Winnipeg probably has Hellebuck back in net because they didn't use him in the back-to-back in the last game, but they are playing a third game in 4 days, although the last game was at home. They have some new momentum again with that win over St. Louis. Obviously, they're not going to overlook Florida here, so I think both teams are in positive spots here. The money is on Winnipeg for what it's worth. It looks like a pretty strong market read on Winnipeg. 79% of the tickets on Florida, 79% of the cash on Winnipeg. Winnipeg flipped from +100 to -110. I think Florida's in a good bounce-back spot, though, and they are the better team, so I don't know if I love Winnipeg in this one. That is what the market is saying, though, but I'm definitely staying away from that one. I worry about it. And then Pittsburgh at Edmonton here. Pittsburgh just won 4-1 at Calgary yesterday. They're on a back-to-back now. They're playing 3 games in 4 days. 4 games in 6 days, actually, all in different cities. So the rest spot is not very good for Pittsburgh, even though they should get up for a game against Edmonton. It's going to be the goalie battle, like the goalie trade battle. But Pittsburgh, I don't know what they're doing here, man. They used Skinner yesterday, so he's not going to play against his former team. So why are you doing that, Pittsburgh? What are you doing here? He did play against them back on December 16th, though, right after the trade, and lost. So Skinner did face his former team once. But they used him yesterday, so he's not going to play against Edmonton this time. For Edmonton, they got Jarry from Pittsburgh, and he played the other day on Tuesday, so he's probably not playing in this game either. So I don't know, man. So they're playing Pittsburgh here, of course. They did just lose at home to New Jersey. I think the spot sets up better for Edmonton because they are staying at home here. I would prefer Edmonton in this game. They are the better team. The market seems to not agree with that, though. A lot of market disagreement with me in hockey today. Edmonton down from minus 195 to minus 159. Of course, a lot of this means I don't have any strong situations. 80% of the tickets, 74% of the cash on Edmonton. So they're public with less of the money on them and the line moving against them. So take that for what it's worth. And then the ESPN game at 9:30 is a pretty good game between Detroit and Minnesota. Both teams having good seasons. Detroit coming into this one off an overtime win yesterday against Toronto. So Detroit's played 2 overtime games in a row, though the other one was on Sunday. So maybe they won't be totally tired coming into this game because prior to yesterday they hadn't played for a couple of days, but they're still on a back-to-back, which isn't great. They will most likely have Talbot back in net, which also probably isn't that good because they've lost his last 2 games. But they used Gibson yesterday. So Detroit having to go with their second-string goalie here. Minnesota coming into this game off of losing to Montreal. But Minnesota's returning home from a road trip. Now, Minnesota didn't play yesterday, but they were on the road since Saturday. So it is a road trip return spot where I talk about this when teams return home from the road. Sometimes they get distracted. They have to get back to home life, whatever. They're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. So that's not that easy either for Minnesota here. Yeah, I mean, the spot is pretty bad for Minnesota, to be honest. The road trip returns are pretty bad, although they are playing on ESPN tonight, so that might alleviate the distractions a little bit, the fact that they're playing a good team at home. But the market read is saying Detroit, and I guess even though they're on the back-to-back, Minnesota's spot is actually a little bit tougher, so I guess I do have to agree with Detroit here. 53% of the tickets, 60% of the cash on Detroit. Minnesota down from minus 160 to minus 136. So the market read is definitely indicating on Detroit here. We will see what happens in that game. And then I don't know what Minnesota's goaltending situation looks like coming into this one. They used Wallstedt in their last game, so it will almost definitely be Gustafsson, although they've been using them kind of interchangeably, so it doesn't really matter. Saab, what's up, man? Nashville and Pittsburgh. I don't like Pittsburgh in that game, although the market agrees with you on both of those games. But you can see my analysis on those that I just gave. I agree with you on the 76ers. 76ers. I agree on Warriors as well. Clippers, I don't know if I have much of an opinion on. We're more in sync on the NBA, though. Definitely, we're not really in sync on hockey, although I don't really disagree with you on Nashville, but it's like, I don't know. I can't get involved in with Nashville in that one. All right. Maybe it's a personal thing because they keep letting me down. All right, NBA to finish this off here. We have several NBA games. Charlotte is at Orlando. Charlotte played yesterday, so not a great spot for Charlotte. And they almost wound up beating me. I thought we had an easy win with the Cavs yesterday, and they won and they covered. But, man, it got close. I mean, look at what happened in this game, man. Charlotte put up a huge effort in this game. They refused to go away in this game. If you look at the game flow, Cleveland had this game completely put away, man. Like, right out of the gate, it was just blowout city for Cleveland. They were winning the game by 27 points late in the second half. They still had an 18-point lead early in the third quarter. Late in the second quarter, I should say, is when they were up 27. They were up, 18 late in the third quarter. And the lead just kept dwindling and dwindling, man. And they were still up double digits in the fourth quarter. Still leading for most of the fourth quarter. Still up 13 with 4:45 left. And they almost blew it. And then all of a sudden, Charlotte actually cut it to 4. And I'm like, are they seriously not going to cover this? It would have been one of the worst beats of all time, man, if the Cavs didn't cover that. But they did. But the Hornets put in a huge effort in that game. And that was yesterday. So I don't really think this is a good spot for them coming into Orlando here. But the problem is, it's not a great spot for Orlando either, really. Orlando, they're coming back from Europe. So I talked about that yesterday. Memphis, I thought, was in a bad spot because of it, because they were returning home from Europe. And, of course, the Hawks got the outright win yesterday against Memphis. I think Memphis was favored. So my read was correct on that game. Some good NBA reads for me yesterday. Now, Orlando is in a similar spot where they are coming back from playing in Berlin and London, coming back home. It's a weird spot for Orlando, man, having to travel back. Like, usually these teams don't do this. They're not used to that, traveling back from Europe. And they have Cleveland on deck. So that is a bigger game, and they're playing a 2-game event, home and home against Cleveland. So the spot is pretty bad for Orlando here, man. It's basically a sandwich. Orlando dropped from 6.5 to 6, 64% of the tickets, 65% of the cash on them. They're the more rested team, but I kind of lean to the Hornets plus the points in this one. I think the spot is pretty terrible for Orlando, to be honest. So, and the Hornets were getting blown out for most of yesterday's game, at least. Yeah, I don't know, man, but that's my read on that game. It's a difficult game to read, though. I wouldn't really disagree with an over, although the money has come in a little bit on the under in that game. But I got to check to see if my over reads are any good at all. Yeah, the Cavs wasted all their energy in the regular season last year. They're not doing that this year. So I don't know. But I had them last night. I thought it was a good spot to play them last night, and we got it right last night. Correct. Yes, Saab is Saab repeating exactly what I said. Yes. Yeah, I'm not on that game, but yes. Total, by the way, dropped from 230 to 228. I got to keep an eye on my total reads, man, because I haven't been keeping an eye on them. 77% of tickets and 76% of the cash on the over, but I actually prefer the over in that one with both teams being in bad spots. Well, the one thing that I would hesitate about, though, is the Magic. The fact that they've been off for so long, that might actually lend itself more towards an under, because when teams have a lot of time off, it does affect the offense. Houston at Philadelphia, here we go. Saab and I are agreeing on this one. I might have to, if we get this one, I might have to go back and bring out the Philadelphia song again tomorrow morning. We're going to be on the Sixers plus the points here. I think the number's 2 right now on this. Might actually be able to get 2.5, like Saab said. Rockets are who we're fading here. I know we're fading a good team, the Rockets. They're down from 3 to 2, 2.5 here. Get the best number you can. I would put some of it on the money line as well, obviously. 53% of the tickets, 75% of the cash on the Sixers here. Money is coming in on the Sixers. Market seems to agree here. This is a horrible spot for Houston. Houston just beat San Antonio. That was a huge win. San Antonio, really good team this year. San Antonio, also a Texas rival. A huge West battle as well there. That was a big win for Houston, man. And now, yeah, they're starting a road trip, but it's only a 2-day road trip. So I don't really go by, the start of a road trip is going to be a focus spot for them here. In this case, I don't think it is, because the second game of the road trip is tomorrow night on Amazon Prime against the Detroit Pistons. And that is a much bigger game as well. So this is a pretty classic sandwich spot, in my opinion. So I think we got to look to Philadelphia here. Philadelphia's coming off a loss at home to Phoenix. They're staying at home. They've been at home since last Wednesday. So Philadelphia's been playing at home, and they've had a bad homestand. So I think they're going to want to get this game, man. Yes, they do play the Knicks next on ABC on Saturday. That's a big game. Saturday afternoon, but I don't see them overlooking Houston here, man. With Philadelphia playing poorly at home. I think Embiid might have not played in the last game. I'm not even sure. I just don't see him on the main, like on the stat leaders here. But Embiid is probable tonight. You always got to see with Philadelphia who's resting, who's playing. Embiid is playing. Paul George is questionable still, but it's a big game. I kind of expect both of them to be out there. Embiid is almost definitively in. But either way, we're going to be on the Sixers either way, man. It's a situational spot. That's the play. Sixers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. 5th straight home game. I think it could be good or bad. I think it depends on how the homestand has been going prior to that. But if it's been a bad homestand with a lot of losses, and the most recent game was a loss, yeah, then I do like it. Denver is at Washington. Denver really not favored by a whole lot here. Denver being without Jokic. And then, I don't know, there might be some other injuries going on for Denver too. J-Main, what's up again, man? Denver, yeah, of course, without Jokic, they're coming into this game off a pretty tough loss to the Lakers the other day. That was a big game, so I could potentially see that maybe being a hangover, although when you start a road trip, usually you are focused, but Washington is the least of their opponents on this road trip, and Denver did just beat Washington on the 17th, although it was a close call. They almost didn't get it. They almost didn't win. So I don't know what to think about this game, but I kind of lean against Denver in this one. It looks pretty easy to lay the points with Denver here. Washington just had their road trip return and lost to the Clippers. And unfortunately, I believe that was a loss for us on the show. I think with the Clippers put themselves in a massive hole early in the game and could never get out of it. And we needed them to cover as a favorite, and they didn't do it. They missed by a couple of points there. But Washington's now in one of those second games back from the return home. So the return home spot a lot of times is bad because you fall into a distracted spot. And I'm not going to say they played a bad game, but when you lose that game, a lot of times that second game, you're back at home. It's a much better game. They've had 2 days off now. Rest, try to break that losing momentum because they've lost a bunch of games in a row. 7, I think, 6, whatever that is. I think it's 7. You can get the stuff done that you need to get done at home. I think they're going to show up, try to split the homestand. So I prefer Washington in this game. The market read seems to agree with it. Nuggets are a 5.5-point favorite, which, again, looks way too easy to lay it with the Nuggets. 69% of the tickets on them, 57% of the cash on the Wizards. So it does look like a pros versus Joes type of scenario setting up there. Next up, we have Golden State at Dallas on Amazon Prime. Saab is playing this game in a different way than I am. Denver, yeah, that's right. Denver had a massive lead against the Lakers and completely fell apart. Could be a hangover, yes, because they had the Lakers on the ropes. Yeah, that's a good point. Denver just kind of ran out of steam because they're playing with a thin roster right now, man. Now, in this game, Saab, I think he said he's going first half or something like that. I don't really do halves, which maybe sometimes screws me. I'm going full game, and I am going to be on the Golden State Warriors, laying the points here. This looks like a pros versus Joes, believe it or not, with the Joes on the Mavs. When would you ever see that? The Mavs, 67% of the tickets on them. The Warriors, 72% of the cash on them. You might be able to find a 5 out there on this. It's somewhere between 5, 5.5. Hopefully there's not much of a difference here. Now, yes, I know Golden State is without Jimmy Butler. I'm sorry, but we have to do it again.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jimmy. Jimmy's ready. Jimmy's got some new moves.
Go, Jimmy.
Check Jimmy out.
Jimmy's down!
Jimmy is down, and now Golden State, they did not have a good game in the first game without him. In fact, they got blown out. So I'm okay with playing them in the second game without Butler. Usually I talk about how the injured player theory spot, when you lose your star player, usually you step it up and play really well in that first game without him. And then you have a little bit of a setback and a letdown in the next game. But in this game, I don't think so, because Golden State got embarrassed in that game. They gave up 145 points at home to Toronto and lost the game outright. It did end a winning streak for them, and they are playing a third game in 4 days. I get all that, but at least the other games are at home. But when you have a bad home loss like that and now you get to go out on the road, I think you're going to be focused on it, man. So I think this is actually a decent thing for Golden State. I think it's more of a positive spot. They can just go out, focus on this game. It is on Amazon Prime for what it's worth, although I know Saturday they have a big game against Minnesota, which I believe is actually, is that still revenge for last year? Let me see. Yeah, it is. So that is a big game on deck, so I do worry about that. That's playoff revenge, I'm pretty sure, for last year against Minnesota. I believe it is. Is it? I forget. I think it is. Against Minnesota on ABC. That is a big game, but I just think Golden State got so embarrassed in the last game that they will show up for this. And the other part of the equation is Dallas is in a horrible spot here. Dallas just went to New York, and they beat the Knicks 114-97 at Madison Square Garden. That was an insane win for Dallas. Ridiculous win. Now they're coming back home, and they have a huge game on deck as well, by the way, Saturday on ABC in primetime. So both teams do. But look at who Dallas is playing. They're playing Luka. They're playing the LA Lakers, man. So that is a huge game. And that's only the second time they're playing them, and they lost the first time they played them this year against the Lakers. That is a massive game. Still looking for maybe that trade revenge, like get some revenge on Luka, whatever here. Beat Luka. That's a huge look ahead. So this is a major sandwich spot. for Dallas, man. I don't see them paying much attention to Golden State, especially without Butler. But, of course, Dallas's injury list is a mile long. You know, AD is out for the season. Kyrie's not coming back, although he hasn't played at all. Derek Lively's been out for a while now. Gafford, it looks like he might miss the game tonight as well. He's questionable, so we'll see. I know Cooper Flagg missed a few games recently, but he will be playing. He's been back for a little while now. And P.J. Washington was questionable in the last game, although he is playing. But, yeah, I mean, Dallas has a ton of injuries too, man. So it's not just Golden State being without Butler. There's a reason why Golden State's still favored on the road here, man. The odds makers are still telling you that they are the better team here. Dallas is in a terrible spot, like I said. That was a massive win over the Knicks, too. And, yeah, Dallas has a couple of days off, but still, a couple of days off after you have a monster win like that, I don't think is really a good thing. So Golden State is the play there. Oh, you're on first quarter, Warriors and Clippers. But you also agree with me. All right, hell yeah. Blitz Murray in the second half. What are we talking about? Jamal Murray. 15 plus for Paul George. What are we talking about? 15 points, you mean? Points scored for Paul George? He's got to play, though, man. J-Man with his props here. And then what are we talking about? 18 and a half. I don't know. What are we talking about? You're going with 18 points for each of them? I don't know what we're talking about. So you're going some alternate prop line here? I don't know, man. I don't do many of the props. But props to the people who do. Chicago at Minnesota. This is probably my next strongest opinion here in basketball. This one's not on my card. But I would agree with the Chicago Bulls in this game. The Bulls did just come off a blowout win, though, against LA, against the Clippers, not the Lakers. They blew them out by 28. That's pretty satisfying. So the Bulls, you know, I don't know what we're going to get out of them in this game. They're going on a single-game road trip to Minnesota. Kind of a weird spot, not that easy. Although the last time they played Minnesota embarrassed them in Chicago by 35 points. So Chicago does probably remember that and will probably show up for that reason as well. They do have Boston on deck, though. Now, for Minnesota, they're coming off a pretty embarrassing couple of games. Well, they're coming off an embarrassing game, to Utah. But the problem for Minnesota is obviously they're returning over a road trip. They've been on the road since the 13th. And you know I talk about this. When teams go on the road and they return home, a lot of times they get distracted. They don't pay attention. They have to get back to family life. And they're playing a team that they just destroyed the last time they played them. So they might really overlook them. And they do have an ABC game on Saturday as part of that slate against the Warriors. So they might be looking ahead as well. So I do like Chicago in this game. Money does seem to agree with it. I'm tempted to add it to my card. T-Wolves 9.5, 51% of tickets, 72% of the cash coming in on the Bulls. Am I going to add multiple plays on the fly here, man? I do like the Bulls in this one. Well, my one hesitation, though, is besides the fact the Bulls are coming off a blowout win, also Minnesota's really good at home, 15-6, although I did forget to mention Golden State hasn't been very good on the road, though, and we are playing them on the road here. But whatever. Chicago's bad on the road, 7-13, although you only need them to cover as an underdog here. But the problem is we got to see if Josh Giddey is coming back, man. I feel like he's been questionable for a while, and I have no idea when he's actually coming back. So that's the problem here. Because if he comes back, he's like Chicago's best player. So that would be a reverse injured player spot on them. So, you know, I tend to not like playing on teams when that's the case because he's got to work his way back in. The players have to assume their new roles and whatever. And, of course, you're going to wind up getting less value on that team if it happens. Now, based on the line here, it kind of looks like maybe he's not going to play. So, I don't know. And if he isn't, then I do like the Bulls here. But I'll stay away for now, I guess, just because of the uncertainty surrounding Giddey. And, of course, if he does play, I do think the line will drop. If it's announced that he's going to play, I think you'll see this line move a couple points towards Chicago, so you'll get less value. So if you do like the Bulls, I kind of think you do have to play it now because Giddey might come back. San Antonio is at Utah. San Antonio coming off that tough game at Houston the other day, man. Now they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. They just beat Utah not that long ago by double digits, although I think the Spurs didn't cover. I think we won with Utah plus the points in that game. But going into elevation here, I think it's not really a good spot for San Antonio, man, off of playing Houston. Utah just ended a loss streak, although it was interestingly, it was in a return home spot. But they beat Minnesota, so that was a big win for them. So it is possible they're in a little bit of a letdown spot here. But second game back home, usually a positive, although it's more of a positive when you do bad in the first game. But they did end a lose. Yeah, they did end a losing streak. They did lose the last time they played San Antonio. So I prefer Utah in the game. The money's kind of disagreeing with it. The Spurs are a 13-point favorite. They were, I believe, about 16.5 when they were at home. So the line is close to about correct, I guess, based on that. 83% of the tickets, 93% of the cash on the Spurs. But I would probably lean towards Utah. The other Amazon Prime game tonight is the LA battle between the Lakers and the Clippers. Lakers always have to see what's going on with their injury situation here, man. Luka has been back for a little while, so he is playing. Where's the injury? There it is. Austin Reeves is still out for Denver, it looks like they might be getting Valanciunas back tonight, so that would be pretty big for them, getting one of their big guys back. So I figured I'd point that out. For the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, I mean, he's game time decision. What else is new? He's old, so I don't even know how much of a factor he really is for the Clippers. The Lakers coming into this game off a big win in elevation against Denver, a big comeback win, man. So I think that does put them in kind of a bad spot here. Although they did actually lose the last time they played against the Clippers at the Clippers. They lost by 15 or whatever. So they might remember that and maybe make some adjustments to that. But I think coming off that win in Denver, big comeback win, I think the spot is probably a little bit better for the Clippers, maybe, because the Clippers did just get blown out embarrassingly by Chicago. But, of course, the problem with the Clippers is they're returning home from a road trip. They've been on the road since Friday, so it wasn't a long road trip. They weren't away for a full week, but still stuff can pile up for you to do back at home, so you might have stuff to do. But even though, the home distractions might come into play and whatever, I don't think they're going to overlook the Lakers. So there is that on an Amazon Prime game. So at least there's that. But the Clippers did lose a long win streak. They lost a 6-game win streak with that loss to Chicago in their last game. So that is a bit of a concern for the Clippers here. So I don't love that about the Clippers here. So, yeah, I don't know what I would do in this game. The money is kind of indicating on the Clippers. Lakers, 62% of the tickets, 51% of the cash on them. Clippers flip from +2 to -1 here. So the money is saying, the market read is saying Clippers. And that is, there's one more game. Miami at Portland. Miami coming into this game off a blowout win at Sacramento. Now they're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, actually, all in different cities, so maybe not that easy to do. Portland coming into this game also off of beating Sacramento, but actually on the road as well. But they've had a couple of days off here, man, and the days off might not be helpful. When you have a 3-game win streak, you actually might have that momentum disrupted when you have too many days off, so that's not great. But they are the more rested team. I kind of worry about the spot that Miami's in a little bit here. I probably lean towards the Blazers in this one. They flip from +1.5 to -1.5. Miami is looking public, 71% of the tickets, also 71% of the cash on the Heat. So that's what's going on in that game. And, yeah, that's going to do it, man. So, once again, the plays today. I got to get my first Instagram video because we have one at noon. College basketball, we're going App State minus the points, Iona, money line. Or I guess if you want to play Iona at a small, well, even if it's a very small favorite price, I think you got to do money line. We're on Towson plus the points, Northeastern minus the points, New Mexico State minus the points. NBA, we got the Philadelphia 76ers plus the points, and the Golden State Warriors minus the points. And that is going to do it, man. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the show here. Get me more viewers, man. Let's go. Bump this thing up, baby. We also are on audio. Reviewing over there helps me out. Apple, Spotify. Listening helps me out over there as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke YouTube channel. Got to keep that up to date. The Patreon is almost up to date now. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. I got some requests that I got to handle over there. My finger is like really bad though because I keep slapping the uke with it. I got to somehow find a new way to play the uke or something where I'm not slapping it. I don't know what to do, man, because I think my finger is broken or something. It's bad. I'm in permanent pain here. Maybe it could be like a tendon or ligament thing. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, patreon.com/LearnToToad. You get the bonus uke stuff there if you want it. And then Losercast every Tuesday night, the comedy podcast that I'm on. That's going to do it, everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks. Peace for now, and I will be back tomorrow morning for the Friday slate. It's going to do it. Let's have another winning day. Peace.